Hello everybody, today I am asking the question, what happens when you take a chassis from the past and combine it with a suspension from the future? With luck, the results should be quite entertaining, but are they worth it? Let's find out. Today I am driving yet another example of a 911 Restomod, and I have to be perfectly honest, I am beginning to become a little bit tired of them for very simple reasoning. That is that they are nearly all exactly the same. Whilst I know, yes, that's highly inaccurate and rather reductive, there is still an element of truth to it. Let's be honest, just about every 911 Restomod you've seen involves taking usually a G series, so impact bumper, 1980s 911, a 3-litre or a 3.2, whacking on a body to make it look like one from the pre-impact bumper era, the 1960s or early 70s, giving it a set of Fuchs-style wheels, popping in a G50 gearbox because nobody likes the old 915, pepping up the engine a little bit, retrimming the interior and pretending that you've reinvented the wheel. And though beyond on occasion cutting up a perfectly good car to create these things, I don't really have an issue with it. From a viewer's perspective, well, I'd forgive you if you thought that they were all exactly alike. When you then begin to look at the prices asked for some of these creations, you'd also have to question the sanity of some of the owners. I've seen cars going for £300,000, £400,000, and that's before you get to the likes of the Singer, for which you can pay $500,000, million, more. That's mad, because what you end up with still looks essentially exactly the same as this. Okay then, so that's my introductory rant over. What is it that I'm driving today, and why is it a little bit different? Well, in very many ways it is exactly the same as all the other 911 Restomods that I've described. It started life as a 1989 3.2 Carrera, has been backdated to look like one from 1972, and was built by a company over in the Cotswolds called 911 Ren Sport. It is what they call their Evolution S. In their words, it is designed to feel like what the 911 would have done were the old pre-impact bumper cars continued to be developed rather than transforming as they did. Out back, you have a 3.4-litre engine now, producing 300 horsepower and 265 pound-foot. In other words, similar power figures to an early 996. The difference being, this is considerably lighter, weighing in at only 1,080 kilos, which gives it a fairly healthy power-to-weight ratio. The gearbox is the obligatory G50. The gear lever itself has been topped with a little balsa wood style thing, which looks like that you'd find in a 917, and I have to say, I really do like it. The interior has been retrimmed and is rather tasteful, very high quality, very well put together, but doesn't really feel any different to that of many other Restomods that I've driven. The exterior colour is slate grey, an old school 911 colour, and I have to say, it suits it really rather well. In fact, I'll be honest, looking at this car as I was doing the drive-bys this morning, in terms of size, sound and speed, it looked perfectly suited to your classic British B-road, and it is for that reason, amongst others, that this car's owner, Guy, chose to have this car built. Alright, so that's one reason to like this. As you can probably see, though the engine is largely original 911, there are some changes, including the addition of fuel injection with 6 individual throttle bodies. And at its 7,000 RPM redline, this car is gulping in 400 litres of air a second. Does make a great noise too, and I love the fact that actually from in here you get the very best of it. From outside it's still nice, but in here it's just better. The true party piece of this car though is the suspension, because it has a set of TracTive's semi-active dampers on it. They are a very, very trick piece of kit, built and developed over in the Netherlands. I've begun to see them appearing on a lot of cars, primarily Porsches, and they promise to do quite a bit. They can change their mind in as little as 6 milliseconds or so, and they have a hell of a lot of adjustability. You can set them up using various different parameters to make the car handle pretty much how you want it. The aim with this car in particular was to try and eliminate some of the less desirable characteristics of the 911, owing to its, well, very, very obvious rearward weight bias and its somewhat rudimentary suspension, however, not rob it of its character. And at regular, ordinary, reasonable speeds, I have to say I'm relatively impressed with it. The damping seems to be relatively sophisticated. You can feel the road, you know exactly what the surface is doing, but you're not being beaten about. It's not particularly unpleasant in any way, shape or form. You've got this constant pitter-patter that you do get with an old 911, and I think I'd be disappointed if this car didn't have that. The steering is unassisted, so you've got plenty of feel through the wheel, and at lower speeds it is still relatively heavy. The car has been set up explicitly for fast road use, not track, and to that end the tyres are still relatively narrow, 205 section at the front and 225 at the rear, which for a car of this era and performance I think is just about right. Though in many other things 225 at the back might sound a little bit stingy, you've got to remember there's a lot of weight on those, so traction should still be pretty decent. The gearbox is absolutely fabulous, really nice throw, very, very precise, you know exactly what you're doing. The pedals, all nice, easy to use. They're on the heavy side, but as they should be in an old school 911. Visibility, of course, is utterly excellent, and you get a lot of confidence in this car very, very quickly. So, time then to see really, if that is faith, there's some pops coming out of this thing. Anyway, yeah. Time to see really whether this car is as good as you'd hope it would be to hustle down a back road. So then, if I were to be critical of this car, and I suppose I should, because that's my job and everything, that's why you're here, I would say that what they've done here has robbed it of a little bit of that classic 911 feel, that sort of nose bobbing, the lightness of the front end, the delicacy of it, particularly when you're in the middle of a corner, you want to make a minor adjustment, it just doesn't feel like it responds quite keenly enough. I do believe the suspension is doing a lot, and that's probably why the car feels like it's just a little bit less keen off center. It feels like you turn and the car almost resists you. What's actually happening is the suspension is reacting to being loaded up. You can feel it happening. It's quite disconcerting to begin with, but you do eventually get used to it pretty quickly, I would say. However, there are also a lot of people out there for whom I'm sure that those handling characteristics have put them off buying a 911, and I think it's fair to say that this is certainly a more sophisticated and perhaps more predictable car than it would have been with a standard setup, even a modified one. I'm sure there is a way to program the suspension so that it'll react and behave more akin to how it would have done before, but then you'd be defeating the point entirely of having the TracTive suspension at all. Although, I say that, when you are under harder braking, the car does still like to wander quite a bit. That's one thing that's definitely not been dialed out. And you do need to watch for that, because it could catch you unawares. You can actually control all the various parameters that it has using a little screen down here, which has been very nicely and neatly integrated. I also appreciate the fact that because Guy wants to use this regularly, and in the year that he's had it, he's already put 4,000 miles on it. It's got the Porsche Classic Nav system over here, which also integrates beautifully with the interior, and I cannot fault the quality of the craftsmanship in here. I appreciate the little details like the drilled door handles, the fact that to get out you pull this little leather strap here, then you shut the door using the, to be honest, slightly cheap and naff feeling little metal handle down here. That's a bit rubbishy, but it's okay. I love the metal stalks here, which still feel familiar 911, but are just a little bit different, and certainly better than some of the nasty plastic stuff that has been used back in the day. The wheel itself is also not what you typically find on a build like this. Often it'd be a Momo Prototipo or something like that, but here they've gone with a dished item because Guy is rather tall. He's 6'6", and that's one of the reasons that he went for a 911 rather than a classic Ferrari or the like. He just wouldn't fit in one of those. He has also always wanted a 911 from the time he was a little boy, and this is the realization of a lifelong dream. He had the car built to his requirements, and if you're wondering how much it cost, it would be almost unfair to tell you what he spent, because if you were to build one, it might be a little bit different. If I were to say to you a new 911 GT3, so let's call it 150 to 200,000 pounds, I think that's a relatively fair assessment. The red line is at 7,000. By the time you get to 6, you can feel the engine wants you to change up, and that's fine because there's plenty of performance even by that point. When we were chatting earlier, he said that if he were to buy a new 911, which wasn't off the cards, it would have been the likes of a 992 GT3 Touring, because he likes the performance combined with the understated looks of the car. However, as he's not on the Christmas card list of his local dealer, he was never going to get a new one of those. And the fact is, growing up, this is the shape of 911 that he wanted. I would also be lying if I said that the extra performance of a 992 GT3 wasn't noticeable, but I think I would also be lying if I said to you that you can use that extra performance a lot of the time, because you just can't. In fact, revving this out to 7 has taken some considerable effort. Oh, that's a great noise. Wow. I'm going to leave the in-cabin microphone on for a little bit. People always ask that, and this is what it sounds like from this microphone. So this little section of road, which is where we did our drive-bys earlier, is particularly demanding. There's some tree roots under the tarmac, little sections where they patch things up, and that's why I love it as a test route, because it's got a little bit of everything. You can definitely feel that just that keenness of turning has been taken away, but honestly, it's not like it's ruined, it's just shaved off a little. But the upside is that over certain sections where in a regular 1970s or 80s 911 I'd be concerned, here I'm not. The suspension is definitely doing a decent job of keeping everything in check. Oh, just got a big whiff of super unleaded as well. You're so low in these things, I always forget that. It's amazing. I remember when I had a 993, well, my mum had a 993 and she let me drive it a lot. When someone in a Fiesta would pull up next to you, you'd be sort of looking up at them like it was a double-decker bus. Response of this engine is absolutely wonderful. Heel and toe is a joy. When you turn a corner and some Wally in an Enterprise van is 2 foot over the white line, you're also grateful for how narrow it is, and that is one thing I love about this car. There are so many roads that if you were in any description of modern day supercar, you just couldn't enjoy them, but in this, you can. Love the view out, classic 911. This is my first experience of the TracTive suspension, and I've got to say, it's not the revelation that I thought it was going to be. When you start seeing things like semi-active and all the numbers and things they claim, you do start to build an idea in your head that it's, you know, going to be like the old Williams F1 cars. It's going to be pitching and rolling and doing all that sort of stuff. That's not what it does. But it has changed this car, definitely. The brakes, they work very well. Nice feel, progressive, firm pedal, does have some movement in it, but you can modulate them very, very precisely. It would be inaccurate to say that this steering was lacking in texture. It's not. It's just that kind of kickback that you expect from a 911. That's what's gone. You know, this sort of stuff, you can really feel the surface of the road. So it does still let information through. I appreciate that. I love the fact there's a sunroof, which is helpful not just for exposure, but also to allow you to enjoy a nice day like this. There is also now electric air conditioning, which, though hardly an Arctic wind, does make the car just that little bit more usable, and I think that's important with this sort of thing. You don't want any reasons to not use a car like this. So often I see people who've spent an inordinate amount of cash on something like this, and then they don't go and drive it, and that's a shame. Special mention must be given to these Recaro seats. Not only are they absolutely gorgeous, covered in a Muirhead leather, I think it is. I love the colour, the tan. but they're also very comfortable, nice and supportive, and kind of period correct. These are old school 1980s Recaro seats, and so they suit the build to a T. I know Guy has designs on taking this car abroad and doing a few big trips with it, and I think it will be an absolutely perfect partner. It's not going to draw all that much attention in the way that a Lamborghini or a Ferrari would. And though the boot isn't the most generous, you can still get stuff in there, provided it's in soft bags, and of course you can always sling things in the back seats as well. There isn't really all that much Rennsport branding on the car, which I do appreciate. There's one little logo on the Attaco here, which is in grey, as opposed to the other dials, which are in black, with the classic orange needle. That was also to Guy's specifications, and I like that. So then, conclusion time. Like I said at the beginning, it's very difficult for me to tell the difference between all of these 911 Restomods, because they all seem to be trying to achieve the same things, which leaves me only really with one thing to say, which is that Guy is very pleased with the job that 911 Rennsport have done. So by that metric, they have succeeded. I also think in terms of value for money, this is a very, very nicely put together car. Quality of the build, quality of the components is very good, and for the price he's paid, I think he's gotten a fair amount for the money. As a car designed to be enjoyed on this kind of road, I'd say the combination of size, speed, noise is just perfect. If you want to be subtle, you want to cruise along, you want to bimble through town, you can do it. You want to put your foot down, have a bit of fun, you can do it. Okay, for sure, it has lost a bit of 911 character, but it has also lost a little bit of 911 terror. I suppose, as ever, you pays your money, you takes your choice. This is a 911 Rennsport Evolution S. And I quite like it. I want to say a big thank you to Guy for bringing it out, and as ever, to you for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button, comment down below, and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you for the next one. Bye-bye.